It's my boy right there.
Whoa.
Dude, it's weird.
Woo.
You're not right next to me. What is this?
I know, and we
What's
don't have
going
the
on?
looming stress of a giant production in front of us anymore. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
What's that all? Well, speak for yourself. I spent $13,000 and it's all coming on Tuesday, so I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Well, that's kind of rough.
Eh, it'll be fun, I think.
Jeez. Okay. I just realized I literally didn't realize this, but this is the first time that I've opened my computer since the show because I opened it and
Really?
it had all the stuff like open, and then I realized I forgot. I upgraded my server to a
Oh
higher
my
tier,
god.
like for the show, and I forgot to downgrade it, so I just paid some extra money for that, which is nice.
That's wait, hasn't it been since the show? So
Yeah,
it's
it's been
been
almost a week.
6 days?
Yep.
5 days?
Yep.
Damn. Have you just been just zoinked out asleep since then?
Bro,
Because
I
I have.
wish. Dude, I
Dude,
wish.
I've been
No.
sleeping so much.
Yeah, no, me too. But I've also had my friend visiting, so I'm trying to,
Oh, he's still
keep him
there.
entertained. He's leaving tomorrow night.
Oh, snap. Good trip.
Yeah. Yeah, good trip.
Okay, I have to ask you this before we start the show. Did you finish I Think You Should Leave season 3?
I did.
Because I have not yet.
Okay.
Does it improve?
Do you want to know my opinion?
I do.
No.
Damn. That's such a shame. Look, okay,
Yeah.
there were still sketches that were very funny, like the 55 hamburgers, 55 hot dogs, hilarious. The first sketch ever with the phone, so
Yeah.
funny.
That was good.
The zip line was good, I would say. There was like the doggy door with like the monster guy. The egg game, somebody just put that in the chat. The egg game, that one
Yeah.
was really good. Like there are still a lot of good sketches in there. The problem is I feel like it's probably about one per episode. So for 13 out of 15 minutes, it's kind of like okay. Like
Okay.
okay. Yeah, literally. And I feel
No,
like the ratio was better in the previous sketches. Like there were sketches in seasons 1 and 2 that were like the bad ones of 3, but 3 I feel like is mostly the bad ones with a few good ones.
no, I agree. I feel like, see, in season 1, I feel like there were like probably 5 good episodes worth of sketches, right? There's 6 episodes total. This is I Think You Should Leave, by the way, because someone asked. So I think you should leave.
Yeah.
Season 1, I'd say there were about 5 episodes worth. Like if you pruned out all of the bad ones, you'd still have like
Right.
5 episodes worth. Season 2, maybe it was 4 episodes worth. There were still some good ones. I don't know. I feel like season 1 was better. Season 3 probably had like 1 episode's worth of good ones, and then the rest of it was just not very good.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah. That I think that's a very good breakdown because there just are more of them this season. I don't know, like some of them do feel like the normal ones, right? Um there was the Okay, someone also pointed out the driving crooner one. That's a good one.
It was a little bit too long though. I feel like it was funny like when he was doing
Yeah,
like the whole thing, and then you realize like why he's doing it.
right.
Like that was funny, but it was too long.
Yeah. I feel like most of the bad ones were just like kind of vague. Where like it never really got to the punchline. Not that there really is a punchline.
Right.
I
Yeah,
also like that Cole I like this I wish you would leave.
That's
A
good.
good like parody. It's I think you should leave is the show. It's very good. We'll stop talking about it now, but this is a very important show in the canon of not just us, but in Sam and John as well. Like the four of us watched season 3 together after the show last Wednesday, and we were all sorely disappointed.
Yeah, it was
Like
disappointing.
I wanted another baby of the year, and I got like the friend group one. That one was bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway,
Should we?
all right. Yeah, let's
I
get
think we should get
into it
started.
because I was just checking the chat here, and I think there's a couple things that we got to talk about. The big one is that we have new Macs coming, but I want to start with this comment.
Okay, I think we got to talk about the show. We have a lot. We got to talk about the show. We got to talk about the new Macs. We got to talk about the other stuff from Dub headset, right? We got a lot to talk about today.
Let me pull up my audio recording. Here it is. Whoop, that's movie. Nope. Oh God, it does not like that. It really does not like when QuickTime does not like when you like click movie recording and you're using the same like camera source. I don't want to have to describe to you the horrors that I just saw.
Oh God.
But anyway, I'm now ready.
Whew, okay.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
Welcome to Drk Mode, the podcast that brings you sage advice from two technology experts. And that's not just what we call ourselves, it's what our moms tell people when they need to fill 6 empty PCIe lanes and they have no idea what to put in them. I'm your host, Luke Miani.
And I'm your host, Noah Rubin. On this show, we take questions from listeners, attempt to answer them to varying degrees of success, and maybe even have a laugh or two along the way.
And today we have to start not on a laugh, unfortunately, but on a tweet. I know, boring. I'm pulling this up here because let me see. Am I going to be able to? Okay, good. I can click on this without signing into Twitter. That's great news. So we got to start with a comment here from Baron. And this was like a little, not really a viral tweet, but a tweet that I think got a large number of engagement, let's say, in the wake of Apple's new Vision Pro headset, which was, I don't know if you saw this, Noah, but Mark Zuckerberg had some thoughts on the Apple Vision Pro, and those thoughts reminded me of another certain someone's thoughts from, about 16 years ago. Actually, wait. Yeah, 16 years ago. That's how long ago the iPhone came out. Jeez. So this is my tweet. The headline here is Mark Zuckerberg says Apple Vision Pro has no magical solutions, among other criticisms for why he doesn't think it's going to work out all that well. And I quote tweeted that with a headline from 2007. Steve Ballmer laughs off the iPhone, deems it most expensive in the marketplace. I'm definitely seeing some parallels here. Rival tech CEO with a competing product that Apple has just threatened to upend, saying, oh, they're wrong. That's fine. There's like no big deal. You know, that's basically what they're saying.
That was such a good impression, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's funny because I did read, all the stuff that Zuck said, no magical solutions. He was like, Apple hasn't done anything that we haven't already tried, which I kind I'm not too sure about
I
that, but
doubt
we'll
I
get into
doubt
that.
that.
But I do think it's funny because one of the big things that Zuck mentioned was the price, saying that, one, and basically the way he framed it was saying like, Meta wants to make these things accessible to everyone. And that's why they start at what, like $300, I think. And then the
Yeah.
Vision Pro is $3,500. The price was one of the things that he specifically talked about. So it is actually pretty funny, the exact article that you put in the screenshot there.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly what people were saying about the iPhone, and that's what they're saying now. Like, obviously things are a little bit different, and I'm trying to find uh like a cost comparison of like what were the competitors? What was the Meta Quest 3 in, in 2007, right? What was the leading comparison? And so I'm trying to find like, okay, how about this? Motorola Razr. That was like the 2005 and 6. That was like the new hot biz.
Yeah.
So in 2000, let's see here. Oh yeah, okay. So what, in 2007, a Motorola Razr was $50 with a contract. Because you have to remember when we talk about the iPhone comparison, people always do this. They say, "Oh, the iPhone's so expensive. It used to be $500, and we thought that was expensive." And yes, it was $500 copay because they were on contracts. Because remember, before like 2013, you were buying a phone with a contract, and most of the time, it was like $200 with a 2-year plan, right? I think that's what our iPhone 5s were back in the day.
Yeah, they were all carrier subsidized, and I think they were like, I don't know if you could even, for a while you couldn't even buy them unlocked, but like eventually when you
Right.
could, they were very expensive.
Yeah, because like a lot of it, you were just paying your phone. You were kind of putting a down payment on it in a way. Um, I'm trying to find out what the launch price. Oh, dude, that's so funny. Apparently, when the Razr first came out, it was like $500 on a contract. So I guess
Really?
that's like maybe. No, wait, this might have just been a comparison here. Dude, why did nobody like I really want to find like an internet. Okay, wait, why don't I do this? Internet Archive. What were the comps to the iPhone? I want to go on Verizon.com. Verizon.com, boom. And I want to see what their prices were. I'm going to go on the Wayback Machine. Here, I'll put this on the screen because I think this is so interesting. And we'll get into what Zuck said and the similarities and differences in a second. But I want to go all the way back to 2007. Maybe let's do 2006, right before the iPhone comes out. What did Verizon.com look like? Let's see if the Wayback Machine has any like, the like promotions or like the prices of the phones that you would have seen. Oh, good. This is very boring.
Oh,
All right,
geez.
VerizonWireless.com. Let's see. Maybe that will give us something. Geez. Maybe they didn't really have a ton of like retail stuff on their website.
Maybe not. Yeah, there's like nothing.
I'm trying VerizonWireless.com. Let's see where that's going to take us. Because I really do think it would be interesting to know. I mean, I would imagine that maybe not 10 times the price, but at least triple, quadruple. Oh God, this is a mess. All right, what if we did Best Buy? Maybe that would be better.
Okay. And do you want to zoom in the screen a
Yeah.
little bit?
Sorry, I'm on a 27-inch screen and I keep forgetting. Everyone else sees it smaller. All right, let's do Best Buy December 9th, 2006. This is right at my like 8th birthday.
You should switch
Very,
the
very
tab over.
meaningful. Oh, It went to a new tab. That's
We're
stupid.
very professional here. Don't worry about it.
I'm sorry. It's hard to keep up. It keeps opening new tabs. Gosh, look at this old Best Buy website.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Oh, that's nice. Look at that. That's nice.
It's nice.
All right, let's see here. Do we have cell phones?
At the top,
MP3.
there's phones and communications.
Aha. Cellular. Here we go.
Telephones, two-way
I know.
radios.
I know. And
Oh.
look at that HDTV. That was so classic. All right,
Oh.
what cell phones did they have? Gosh, this isn't really helping me, is it? Gift
Wait,
cards.
go
I don't want
up.
a gift card.
There you go. Get one of these.
Oh. Okay, look, here's LG 8600 was $79.99. That's pretty cheap. Let's hit shop now. Gosh dang it, that opened a new tab. Hang on. I'm like chasing tabs. Is this right? Yeah. All right. Oh. Dang it. They don't have it. I'm so mad. Cell phones and plans. Let's see if that will open. This is I get why people don't do live podcasts now, because we're just figuring this all out as we go. And it opened a new tab.
Oh, geez.
I'm mad. But okay, forget it. Forget about it. It's fine. But those were back in the days where like the comparable phones, I mean, we saw that one deal, $79.99, like $100 phones, $200 phones, all on contract. Like that's just a given at that period. And the iPhone comes out at $500 subsidized. You can see why Steve Ballmer said that. Now we look back on that and we're like, whatever. That's fine. But you know, it is kind of funny to look back on those comments and compare them to what Zuck was saying. Let me see if I can pull up that full quote. Because he had some thoughts that honestly were very, very similar. Very similar. Let's pull up for comparison. Here we'll start with Ballmer 2007, and then we'll see how similar that is. So here's an article from April 30th. So he says, even if the iPhone's first iteration is a success and then Apple introduces lower cost versions, hint they did, it'll still be a device that's confined to a small section of the overall market. Ironic. For every person willing to drop $300 to $500 on a phone, there are a great many more consumers who won't. Ironically, I guess this isn't his quote. He debunked a Zune phone, which I guess did not happen, but they did do a phone. Once again, too late and probably too expensive and not very well done. But I don't know. It's kind of funny because these are the same things that people are saying about exactly the same things people are saying about the headset.
Yeah, it's definitely like, we said it was going to be the iPhone moment. We said this a bunch of times, and it's funny because it is, in terms of like the announcement being like a new product category, being potentially the next, evolution. How we said the iPhone killed the iPod. Will this kill the iPhone? Maybe eventually it will. We don't know. So iPhone moment in that way. But then, of course, it's also the iPhone moment in the way that all of these, all the people are bringing up a lot of these same exact points that happen with the iPhone. And again, we don't know. Maybe these will be valid points, and maybe there really will be these problems. But it is funny that it's exactly the same things. The thing about the price, the thing about like, consumers aren't going to want this. It's too expensive. It's impractical, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all the same. And maybe it'll be right this time. Maybe it won't be, but it's the same thing, which is very funny.
I want to find the current range of let's go to Newegg and look up VR headset, because in the same way, and I know that people are going to point out, fans of the Apple Vision Pro are going to say, Well, you can't really compare the Vision Pro to the existing headsets, right? Like, look at this. Look at these categories. They've got VR headsets under 400, 4 to 700, 700 to $1,000, and then over $1,000. Now, for over $1,000, what are we looking at here? We have 1,300. There's one 2,000. That one has, I think that one has eye tracking. Yeah. So eye tracking is going to put you up to 2,000. There's some like more like new ones like Varjo Aero. Never heard of them. Pimax. Don't know what that is. This is honestly a mess. There's so many different options or configurations, but this is the high end, right? And we're still only about half the price of Apple Vision Pro. But let me redirect your attention to this screen from T-Mobile, April 23rd, 2006. And honestly, the layout of this, it's not dissimilar.
Yeah. You got your bunch of different options there. They all look very different, very
Yeah.
homogenous. We'll say I love the anywhere minutes on there back when you used to care about how many minutes you had on your plan. That's a good one.
Yeah. That's a throwback. Here's our all phones, 4 pages, and a lot of them are free. Let's go to page 4. That's ostensibly the expensive page. And look at that, dude. We're on page 4. This is the cream of the crop. These are Blackberries, all right?
Oh yeah.
$200. This one has it's $349 with an instant discount of $100 and a $50 mail-in rebate. Oh, I missed those.
Yeah.
Ah, what a scummy tactic those were. Am I right?
Yep.
God. But look, this is the most expensive. The most expensive is the T-Mobile BlackBerry 8800. Internet and corporate email. Whoa. Built-in QWERTY keyboard. HTML web browser. $349.99. This right here, this is the Microsoft HoloLens. This is the Meta Quest Pro. That's what that is.
That is actually a very apt comparison. Yeah, I love that. The built-in QWERTY keyboard with the physical keys. Everyone wants physical keys. HTML web browser. Compared that to the browser Safari, mobile Safari, and that whole demo that they showed off showing the full desktop websites. It really that really is a pretty good comparison.
Dude, I'm blowing my own mind here because this is exactly like very rarely. No, that's not true. History very frequently repeats itself, but usually they try not to make it look like it's totally just copying someone else's homework. But this is the exact same thing with the exact same company. It's Apple doing it again. And the fact that people are still all of these people, all of these companies back in the mid 2000s that said this about Apple. Have we learned nothing? They did it. They did this 16 years ago with this. Look at that. I still love this design. It still looks so much more attractive than all of those other ones, and it makes so much more sense. Why would you want a QWERTY keyboard? Why would you want a QWERTY keyboard? You just had a touch screen. Same thing now. Let's go back to that Newegg page. What is the one thing? What's the new version of our QWERTY keyboard? It's these controllers.
Yep, it's the controllers. Who wants controllers when your hands can just do everything? I mean, There's no eyes on there. It's like there's just a bunch of little dots on the front. It's like what are you looking at? Like, I can't see you. That's no good.
Yeah, everyone makes fun of the Apple headset, but this is pretty stupid looking. This is the thing. I will say though, Apple hasn't made a headset that's so completely dramatically different that like it's not even the same ballpark. Like it does still kind of look like this. It's just a better looking version of this. So you could make the argument that it wasn't quite as like whoa as having this compared to having this sleek touchscreen brick that was the original iPhone compared to the other things, the Sidekick, the Razor, the BlackBerry, all of those. But I mean, come on. It seems pretty obvious to me that what Apple's doing is making it better and not being afraid of the price because it's Apple and they know that people will just throw money at them. And they're just like, no, what you need is you're not doing controllers. You're just going to point and look, right? Done. And no, you're not going to see pixels. What is this, 2001? Retina screen. Foveate the renderer. Do it. It's like, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and I feel like honestly, if you look at the iPhone, the original iPhone, it is a very sleek and nice looking thing, and especially when you compare it to like the modern phones, like obviously they look different, but like not even that different. Like it's very, very clear, like when you look at the original iPhone and the current iPhone, like, how the technology progressed to get there. I feel like
Right.
with the iPhone, it was a big departure from the stuff before, but I don't know if it was even that much bigger of a departure than Vision Pro is from the stuff we have right now. Right? If you take like one of those Blackberries, that most expensive Blackberry that you had, if you just chop off the QWERTY keyboard and make the screen longer, you'll get a decent amount of the way there. Like obviously the
True.
iPhone is more polished and nicer and whatever, but like overall, that's the biggest change that they made. You do that, you're most of the way there. I feel like Vision Pro kind of does that, like getting rid of the controllers. But yes, the controllers aren't like physically attached to the headset. Obviously, they're not part of the headset, but they're part of the experience and they're needed in order
Right.
to use it. So getting rid of the controllers was the equivalent of getting rid of the QWERTY keyboard, and then doing the things like making it look nice, and adding like the eyes, the screen on the front, whatever. That's sort of the equivalent of them polishing it up and improving the industrial design and making the thing look nicer and a little bit more unique. So I feel like there's sort of those two parallels between the iPhone and the Vision Pro.
No, yeah, I think you're right. I can definitely see that. Um, I think it is. Yeah, I mean, I guess controllers are our QWERTY keyboard. In the same way that the iPhone came in with this premium material, that's the same thing now, right? We have aluminum and glass and fabric compared to plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So in many ways, they literally just said, "All right, let's do that whole thing again." And when you put it that way, it does make Zuckerberg's comments seem just a touch ironic. So let's pull up. This is his comments. So in a meeting with Meta employees, Zucky Bucky said that the Vision Pro has no magical solutions that Meta has not thought of and costs 7 times more. Literally, what was he reading Steve Ballmer's notes for that?
Yeah.
He said that Apple's announcement really showcases the difference in the values and the vision that our companies bring to this. Interesting. Meta's goal is to offer products that are accessible and affordable to everyone. $34.99 compared to $9.99 for the Quest Pro. Their goal is fundamentally social, whereas the Vision Pro appears to be more isolating. Ironically, given that it's augmented reality, but okay. He admitted that Apple's approach could be the vision of the future computing, but not the one that he wants. Quite interesting. I don't know. it just doesn't really, it seems like a lot of cope to me, you know? Here's a direct passage. I'd say the good news is there's no kind of magical solutions that they have to any of the constraints on the laws of physics that our teams haven't already explored and thought of. They went with a higher resolution display, and between that and all the technology they put in there to power it costs 7 times more. Now requires so much energy that you and now requires so much energy that now you need a battery and a wire attached to it to use it. They made that design trade-off, and it might make sense for the cases they're going for. But look, I think that their announcement showcases the difference in the values and the vision. Ironic vision. And like, look, I think it's pretty transparent when you get down here. They say, our vision for the metaverse and presence is fundamentally social. It's about people interacting in new ways and feeling closer in new ways. Yeah. That's a lot of nonsense. That's a lot of nonsense because the metaverse sucks. I don't think anybody likes it.
Yeah, I think okay, there's a lot there's plenty of things that we could say about all that, but focusing on that one thing, I think it's interesting the way that I think he's wrong. I think he's honestly just flat out wrong in terms of because first of all, he's equating two different things. He's saying he's saying that the Meta Quest is more social because it's about the metaverse, it's about connecting with people, whatever. But that's different. But then saying that the Apple Vision Pro is isolating. Well, okay, the metaverse is an online thing. It's not. I don't think it's the kind of thing where you have multiple people in the same room and they're all like in the same virtual world. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think that's what the intention of it is to be. So you could say like it's the Quest is more social because it has the metaverse and people do that. But that's talking about like people going online. Guess what? The Vision Pro has FaceTime built in and it has that whole avatar thing, whatever. That's basically the equivalent, right? The equivalent of you have the headset on and you're interacting with other people, right? And so in that regard, sure, maybe the metaverse is like, you're with a bunch of random people. It's like an online social network. Whereas FaceTime, you're talking to people that you actually know, right? But it's the same sort of idea. But then when you take that away and you say, what if there's two people in the same room? Well, the Vision Pro is the better one in that case because it has the full 3D, full color reprojection. And it has all those features where someone gets near you and they their body appears on top of the screen. So you always know where people are. They can see your eyes, through the headset, whatever, versus like the Meta Quest. You can't interact with someone in the same room when you're wearing that thing, unless they're also wearing one and you're in some sort of shared experience that may or may not exist. I don't know how it works, but I just feel like they're like comparing two different things. They're saying like the Meta Quest is a social thing because you can go online on the metaverse. The Vision Pro is not because you can't go online. You can use FaceTime, but what? I don't get it.
I think they're trying to say I think it's a very weak argument, but they're basically just trying to say that the metaverse is a social network, so therefore it's a social device. Whereas the Apple counterpart doesn't have an online component. But it's almost a straw man argument because they're saying because the metaverse is internet connected, that makes it social. But I think very easily be able to argue that the metaverse is more isolating than Apple's approach. Because Apple, if the metaverse, if Meta's offerings are social, it's only in the same way that Facebook or Twitter is social. It's not actually, you interacting with people. That's the thing that makes Apple's attempt here more social, is that it's a physically social, not a plugged in online version of social. They were the only company really that has taken the time to be like, hey, what if you're wearing this thing and another person is in the same room as you? because they're not going for gaming, right? Every other use of VR is I'm alone in my room and no one can see me and I'm doing my own thing. Whether it's online or not is immaterial. You're alone, you're doing your own thing. Apple is starting, there's a long way to go, but they are starting to have the attempt of like, okay, if we want this as something for our future, we can't all just pretend that, these crucial key devices are only going to live in our rooms where we use them in isolation completely alone. Apple is trying to break down that barrier and to be like, okay, they can see your eyes. You can use this around other people doing something other than a niche game. And this is the first step at making that happen. In the same way that the iPhone was taking the utilitarian, like emailing, phone calling, messaging aspects of the BlackBerry that was gate kept for professionals. And they're saying, okay, professionals want that. Normal people want that. You want to have phone. You want to set your wallpaper. You don't need to be, you can be a business person or you can be a normal person. They're not trying to niche this into one area. They're trying to say, okay, this is something that everyone's going to use. So we got to make this acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the other, sort of ways to look at it. Let me see if I've lost my train of thought or not. I was so we were just talking about the okay. I think here's what I'll say. First of all, this is the Vision Pro is going to be open to developers. Obviously, we saw there's deep integration with Unity and how you can, build software in Unity specifically for the Vision Pro. Unity stuff can run alongside other Vision Pro, I guess, like Swift UI kind of stuff, whatever it is. So there are plenty of opportunities for people to make games. If you want some sort of like metaverse equivalent in whoever wants that, I don't want that, but for whoever wants that, if you want some sort of metaverse game in your Vision Pro, I'm sure someone's going to make that. I'm sure, someone is going to make games. But I think it really comes down to, and I think this is what I was going to say, it really comes down to sort of like the first principles or the guiding principles. Like when you start working on a new product, a new app or a game or a piece of hardware or whatever, pretty much anything, honestly, you have these like guiding, like fundamental ideas, these like constants, these axioms that aren't going to change. And those sort of guide the way that your product unfolds. And obviously things can change in the future. So like, for example, with the Vision Pro, one of the big ones, and they talked about this at Dub, they talked about it also in the talk show with John Gruber that we got to go to, which was very cool. They talked about this. One of the fundamental things was the idea that it should be more like augmented reality in the way that, like, you should be more present and it shouldn't be totally isolating in the way. And it's funny because, Zuckerberg said that Vision Pro is isolating, but the whole thing, right? That whole idea drove a lot of the ideas. The fact that it's like the full color reprojection, that it feels like you're actually in the same room and not that you're in a virtual environment. You can be in a virtual environment when you turn it on, but the default, you're not. It's things actually in your room. The thing with the eyes, the way that people can like lean in. And yeah, sure, someone said there's like a warning, the Guardian system and the Quest will tell you if someone's near you, sure. But not in the same way that like they come up to you and you can really tell and whatever, like all of this stuff, right? It's that core principle and that's one of them, the core principles that drove the development and all of the choices that Apple made to get to the product that they got to. Whereas if you look at something like the Meta Quest and wherever that started back when it was Oculus, the idea was to be a single person, isolated experience. One person's wearing it, hooked up to a computer, whatever. Things have, changed over the years, but that's where they started. So it's going to be a lot harder for them to eventually get to the point that, the Vision Pro is starting at, because they started from different first principles.
And I think this comment really exemplifies that, these principles, right? No one asked for the metaverse. No one said like, "Hey, I really would like if I could just go live in this alternate world where the Wii came to life." Like that I think is a difference between Apple's approach always and these other company attempts, I would say. Is because when Apple does something, they never just invent something out of thin air, right? You could have said a lot of the same things about the iPhone, right? Oh yeah, you can get an MP3 player. You can put even Apple even made the iTunes phone, right? Where you could have an iPod, an internet communicator, and a cell phone all in one. They had things like all of the features that launched with the original iPhone. I know I've got one around me that I can charge up here and pull up that home screen, that iconic home screen. But what were the things that it came with, right? A camera. Okay, phones had cameras. Came with a calendar. Phones had calendars. It had notes. Other phones had notes. It had iPod and MP3. Sure. It had texting. It had calls. It had emails. It had a map. All of those are things that existed. They didn't invent that. What they invented was the presentation, the packaging, the way that you interact with it. And that is what the Vision Pro is doing to VR, AR. No one else, yeah, there are other things that can track your eyes. There are other things that have cameras on them. There are other headsets that have high resolution displays. But what Apple has here is the only one that combines all of those things and says, hey, we're not going to confine this to be used for gaming. We're going to do everything. That immediately gives them an advantage. Immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of the existing applications, it's majority game. And then you could look at like the HoloLens, and that's used for like enterprise things. And even Apple showed off a little bit of, the potential enterprise applications. And I think I remember hearing, maybe it was at the talk show or something, that enterprise customers were already interested in looking at this. So they're still able to capture that audience. Gaming audience, not as much, obviously, as, like the Meta Quest. Like if you want to buy this thing for gaming, you're probably going to get like a Meta Quest, but that's fine. It'll do some amount of gaming, which is fine, but it'll do a lot of other things, that the other ones don't do. And a lot of things it won't do at the beginning, right? Like this one may not, you know what I mean? It's like the original iPhone. It didn't have a front-facing camera. It couldn't record video. It like so many things were missing that we now take for granted. It's the same thing with this. I think that the Vision Pro that they presented is a very strong start. It has a lot of great things. The tracking, hand tracking looks amazing. The reprojection, we've heard from people who have told us directly that it feels like real life, which is, incredible. But I'm sure that there's going to be plenty of features and plenty of things that are missing in the first one. And I guess the fact that it can and will only get better from here is like the exciting part. The first one's really exciting. I'm really excited to see this first Vision Pro, and like I'm going to get one. Let's be real, but like from going from there and knowing that things are going to get even better and there will be more features and it'll be faster and whatever, like that part is really exciting too.
Yeah. I mean, the iPhone launched without an app store, launched without video, as you mentioned. There are a lot of things that will be missing from this headset. And quite frankly, Apple doesn't know what they are yet. Steve Jobs was 100% when the iPhone launched that web apps were going to be the future. Catastrophically wrong he was on that front. And immediately wrong, because iOS 1 didn't even, like, the App Store got announced for iOS 2, so it was like a year. The iTunes Store got added within months. Like iPhone OS 1.1 added the iTunes Store, so they already knew, okay, something's got to change. They also allowed you to rearrange the apps. Like, things happened so fast because they were like, yikes, yeah, that's going to have to change. The same thing is going to happen here. The one difference, and I do want to talk about the Max, so this will be our final thing here. The one difference is that you don't have to wear an iPhone. This went in your pocket just like everything else. The problem is that you can reinvent VR, AR, whatever. You still have to wear something on your head that looks silly. And Julio here pointed out the only mistake Apple made was not to demo the VP with an executive wearing them on stage. That would have been the bomb. The big problem, the one difference between this old iPhone 2G and the current Vision Pro is that the Vision Pro looks silly.
That is a fair point. As far as I think, okay, you can say it looks silly. I think if you were to go out with it in public, absolutely it would look kind of silly. I think it looks kind of cool, but it definitely isn't something that you would wear in public in the same way or in a different way than the iPhone you obviously would just put in your pocket, bring it out in public. So
Right.
that's absolutely true. And I think we saw that in all of the demos that Apple gave, the vast majority of them were in the home. And then there was maybe like a couple, like someone at an office, using it to do office work. And I honestly think that to begin with, like for the first one, maybe even the first few, that's okay because we're still, again, it's still like very early days,
Mm-hmm.
at least as far as Apple's concerned. There's a lot of, room to grow in there. Like we'll start with this and you'll be able to do things at home at the office. Like eventually there will be a version of this that you can wear out in public. It'll look, maybe it'll still look a little bit goofy, but it'll be a little bit less. It'll be like, as it moves in the right direction, eventually maybe the wire goes away. That's kind of goofy to
Right.
have a wire hanging
That's
off
a
your
big
head.
one.
If that goes away, that would be a little bit better. If the thing, I don't know how like thick and like big on your face the thing's going to be, but if they can like make it smaller somehow, that might help. Eventually it will get to the point where you could wear it like, out in public. But at least for now, I do agree that you can't really do that. But I think that there's enough for you to start with here. And as Apple refines and improves it, eventually it'll get to that point.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. I think the path, well, the launch of these two products is very similar. The path that they will take is not going to be the same. And fundamentally, Apple Vision Pro will not look the way that it looks now when it catches on. I think the only way that that is going to really take off is when we eventually end up in something that you can wear in public, a pair of glasses with this amount of capability. That's what needs to happen eventually. I think it'll take a while. And I think that this will be a success in the meantime because Apple has the backing and the cachet to make it work. But eventually, for it to replace the iPhone, that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, that's definitely yes. It definitely won't replace the iPhone anytime soon. I could
Right.
see it replacing in certain scenarios. I could see it where when you're wearing this like in the home, you might pick up your iPhone less often or even your Mac or your iPad or even using your television. Like I could see this
Mm,
slowly start to replace some uses of those devices. But at the end of the day, when you walk out the door, you're going to be taking your iPhone with you. If you have friends over and you want to watch TV, you're going to have to use a
yep.
physical, like a real TV. You can't share this thing obviously at the same time. So I think it will slowly start to take over some of those things, but it won't actually replace them until, like you said, it becomes more ubiquitous. You can wear it in public, price goes down, more people get it, so on and so forth.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I think that it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that, for sure. But you know what's also going to be interesting, Noah?
What?
Seeing what happens with these new Apple Silicon Macs coming out. Because I feel like obviously the big story is the headset, but you can't deny we are still staring down the barrel here of the Apple Silicon Mac Pro, the M2 Ultra chip, and a 15-inch MacBook Air. What? Those three things would have been enough to make this an exciting WWDC, at least for me. But then we also have this, iPhone 2.0 is here also as well, just for fun, just hanging out. I'm kind of glad that that's not coming out for a while because I'm going to need some time to prep for it.
Yeah, that's fair. I am really, really looking forward to that headset, but we're gonna have to wait a little bit. But it is cool to see the Apple Silicon Mac Pro was a complete surprise. We were not expecting to see it. I think it's
Not at
very
all.
interesting the way that they went about it. So we'll definitely talk about that. It was great to see the 15-inch MacBook Air. Obviously, we were expecting that one. It's finally here. It's exactly what we expected. So that's super great. And then, yes, M2 Ultra in the Mac Studio, get a little upgrade there. Always good to see.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing that we've got now is none of these. Okay, 3 new Macs. None of them is necessarily like an absolute killer, right? The 15-inch MacBook Air is pretty fantastic, except for the fact that it's on an M2 chip, which is a year old. Which, come to think of it, it's also a little weird that the Vision Pro is on the M2 when an M3 is ostensibly coming out. I think we're going to get an M3 chip before we get the Vision Pro, possibly.
That would be
a little weird, right?
Unless they announce when they announce the M3 chip, if they say, oh, by the way, the Vision Pro will actually be powered by the M3. I don't know if they would do that, but if they, that would be, we don't need to go back to the headset, but I think that was really weird to say. I guess they had to say it was powered by something. They had to say what it was powered by, but it is, I hope that it ends up being the M3. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little weird. I'm secretly hoping that they'll say okay, well now we're releasing the Vision Pro, and guess what? It's faster than what we announced, and here it is. With the M3 chip. Yeah. I hope. It's also possible that they'll not announce the M3 chip until next WWDC after the Vision Pro is already out. They could do that.
It's possible.
That'd be alarmingly slow, though. I'm hoping that Apple does need to kind of pick up their pace a little bit, I think, in some ways with Apple Silicon, if they want to keep up. But either way, 15-inch MacBook Air. Great idea. Very simple, right? It's just bigger. That's all they did. They didn't even make the battery life better, which is weird. We'll see about that, though. I will be testing all of those things. But the Mac Studio, I think, is the safest product because I think most of us would agree that the Mac Studio was probably the best thing to come from the Apple Silicon transition. They gave us a not outrageously expensive but very capable machine that runs extremely cool, has plenty of I/O, including a front SD card, which I'm going to miss very much indeed with the Mac Pro. And there's just, I just don't even, no notes. Mac Studio was, well, apart from the whole storage debacle, that would be my one note. But everything else, they knocked it out of the park. But now when it comes time to Apple Mac Park Pro, oh yeah, they did. Nice.
Yeah, thank you.
But now when it comes to the Mac Pro, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I think, okay, Mac Studio, it's a great machine, and it's cool to see, okay, put M2 Ultra in it, it's going to be faster. That's just objectively, it's objectively better. If you already have a Mac Studio, You're probably not going to upgrade it unless your name is Luke Miani. But if you're going to buy a new Mac Studio, you're going to buy a new one, and you see, oh, here's an option that's even better, same price, whatever, you're going to go for that one, right? So that's a good upgrade. But the funny thing is, I think the Mac Studio, basically we've gotten confirmation that they replaced the Mac Studio. It basically replaced the Mac Pro when you think about it, because the new
Yeah.
Mac Pro is the Mac Studio with the PCIe. It has 6, PCIe expansion slots, and that's it. And correct me if I'm wrong, the same chassis as the old Mac Pro.
You are correct. And fun fact, the same power supply, 1400 watts.
Jeez, that's, bro, I thought the Mac Mini power supply was overkill. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, 1400 watts for a system that realistically, okay, M1 Ultra total package is maybe 300 under full load. So perhaps slightly more for the M2 Ultra, but like, my goodness, folks, that's obviously a lot of that is to support the internal PCIe, right? So I get why they wouldn't want to shrink the power supply too much. It's still going to be overkill because PCI cards don't use that much, especially when none of them are graphics cards. But yeah, massively overkill. A chassis designed to cool things that you don't have, right? Like the Mac Pro chassis is designed with these channels to blow air across the RAM. Well, we don't have that anymore. It's unified memory. It has fans designed to absolutely dump air across these massive MPX module graphics cards. Well, we don't have those either. I said in my video, on the inside of the thing, did you see how empty it looks?
Oh yeah, it's kind of funny. It's pretty funny.
It's goofy looking.
Yeah, and so I think, for me at least, and I say this as like an outsider looking in, because I would never buy a Mac Pro. I have no reason, no need, no justification. But just looking at it from the outside, this Mac Pro is kind of goofy. Like it's literally just a Mac Studio with PCIe slots in a case that is way too big and way too over-engineered for what it is. I really wish that Apple would have done a little, like, almost like the G4 Cube kind of thing, right? Because like the current Mac Studio is like a Mac Mini, but taller. I wish they would have done like a proper, it's kind of like a cube. The Mac Studio kind of looks like a cube, but it kind of doesn't. I wish they would have done like a proper cube thing. It could even be like a super tall one, like the Airport Extreme or the Time Capsule, like the later generation versions of those. But like something like a new chassis, like a new design that like takes advantage of the fact that the Apple Silicon stuff is so much smaller and so much more efficient. Yes, you need a lot of room for the PCI expansion cards, sure, but you don't need the amount of room and the style of case that we have. I get that they're, using existing manufacturing processes. It's a lot easier. It takes less, resources from them. But I feel like Apple, like, I was disappointed. Like, we've seen Apple Silicon has changed all of the other Macs in very big ways. Like, you look at any other Mac, today, iMac, MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, whatever, Mac Mini, all of them compared to the ones before, and there are noticeable differences. And I feel like with the Mac Pro, it's just not there. I feel like they were kind of lazy with it.
They were, absolutely. I just pulled up an image that I think encapsulates this perfectly.
Oh,
like,
jeez.
This is what they've just done. It looks like an ITX motherboard inside a giant ATX case with a huge power supply. Like, the ironic thing about all of this is that this new Mac Pro is so much better value than the old one, but it doesn't feel like it because the Mac Studio exists. That's the funny thing. Like, right now, the base model $7,000 Mac Pro is probably faster than a $20,000 Mac Pro under Intel. 30,000, 40,000. Like, that thing was over 50 grand if you spec'd it out. Like, granted, a lot of that was RAM, sure, but if you wanted the 28 core Xeon, it was $13,000 price starting. If you wanted it with GPUs, and that's, by the way, with an RX 580. So, like, if you wanted anything that could remotely compete with even an M1 Max, let alone the 76 core M2 Ultra, like, it, you are getting now for $8,000 what before would cost you 20. But the problem is when you put it next to the Mac Studio, which saves $3,000 on top of that, it looks laughable. It's never before has Apple announced a product that is twice as fast and half the price, and we still go, well, that's pointless.
Yeah, I feel like this is almost but not quite like the iPad situation, the iPad Pro situation, where in 2018 they launched the iPad Pro, and that thing was so good that even as it got, better and faster, and they put an M1 chip in it and like whatever, all that stuff, it still wasn't enough. I feel like the Mac Studio was kind of the same, where they put so much of the Mac Pro, the level of performance and the IO, whatever, they put so much Mac Pro stuff into the Mac Studio that it was like such a good package that when they actually released the Mac Pro itself, it like seems silly by comparison. I really think they were lazy with the Mac Pro, but given that the Mac Studio exists, they really couldn't. I'm not saying they couldn't afford to be lazy, but like if the Mac Studio didn't exist and this was the Mac Pro we got, I think people would be a lot happier about it because they don't know what they'd be missing out on. The fact that you can get the same performance in a much smaller package is and for a much cheaper price, $3,000 less, whatever, like it makes the Mac Pro a hard sell. I feel like for the Mac Pro, unless you really, really, really need those PCIe expansion slots, there's no reason to get the Mac Pro over the Mac Studio. And I feel like that's a little bit disappointing for the most pro level machine to have the only real difference be that it has PCIe slots in it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And like the thing is, even if you want those PCIe slots, a lot of what you're going to do with them is storage. And for the $3,000 premium that you're paying just to be able to put whatever storage you want in it, you could get a fully decked out Mac Studio with 8 terabytes and buy like 50 terabytes of like hard drives to plug into it over Thunderbolt. So like by nature of being that expensive, it nullifies a lot of its benefits.
Yeah, I just feel like, I don't know, maybe Apple played their hand too soon with the Mac Studio, and they could have, I guess at the end of the day, there is PCIe expansion, and the Mac Studio doesn't have that. It's not going to because it's so small, but it just feels, someone here in the chat said, I think this is the last iteration of the Mac Pro, long live Mac Studio. And to be perfectly honest, like I said before, Apple Silicon has transformed a lot of Macs, or it's transformed most of the other Macs in a big way. MacBook Pro, iMac, MacBook Air, Mac Mini, not so much, but that's okay. But I feel like maybe we were at the point where the Mac Pro isn't really necessary, because if the Mac Pro and the Mac Studio have the same level of performance, right, you can get the same upgrades and the same things. And the only difference is the expansion. But now the expansion is less of a valuable thing because you're not putting graphics cards in there. You're not putting afterburner cards in there, whatever. Like maybe in the way that Apple Silicon changed a lot of the existing Macs, it also made the Mac Pro obsolete. And so very well, this might be the last Mac Pro, or the Mac Pro may continue to just be Mac Studio plus PCIe slots, and most people won't buy it. Most people that would buy it would just buy Mac Studio instead. Maybe that's just the march of progress. I don't know.
Maybe. I still have hope for the Mac Pro though. Initially, when it came out, I was hoping that Apple would make it so that you could upgrade the SoC Like if they could have the entire M2 Ultra be socketed, that'd be sick. Because you could be buying your chassis, keep all of your like PCI stuff installed, and I'm sure it would cost many thousands of dollars, but buy an M3 Ultra card when that comes out. They didn't do that. So to this person who says the Mac Pro is the only Mac you can kind of upgrade, well, it seems like all you can upgrade is the storage, both the internal storage, the same way that you could do on the previous Mac Pro, but also because of PCIe. And don't get me wrong, that is cool. And I fully intend to do that and put just like an absolute buttload of NVMe SSDs in this thing. Like, of course I want to do that. But it's not really upgradable. It's only really expandable. And to Noah's point, maybe it doesn't need to be upgraded. Like in the Mac Pro, it was, you could put in these dual MPX modules. Well, the M2 Ultra in an SoC is already faster than that. So what is there to upgrade? Same with the CPU. You could argue that it makes the Mac Pro obsolete. I would argue that I think you're right, but it could also give Apple an additional opportunity. We saw with the VR headset that they have a coprocessor, the R1 chip. So it maybe gives me some hope that in the future, Apple could come up with some first-party expansion cards that add coprocessors or accelerators or something. I feel like there is the room when you have the ability to expand for them to find some way to provide additional functionality somehow.
Yeah, I think, maybe you could look at the one way, this is the last Mac Pro, whatever. Maybe this is just Apple getting, they said they were going to do the Apple Silicon transition in 2 years. Obviously, they didn't quite make that mark, but I feel like they're pretty close. So maybe this is their way of, getting that last product. They teased, the last product is the Mac Pro, getting the Mac Pro there. Maybe eventually in the future, we'll see the Mac Pro, some differentiation. Maybe it'll get a redesign. Maybe it'll get some like dual SoC kind of thing. Someone was mentioning that in the comments. Maybe it'll get that. Maybe it'll get some kind of coprocessor that lets you do, other expansions of other kinds. Whatever. There's room. I guess just because this particular Mac Pro was a bit disappointing doesn't mean that the future of all Mac Pros have to be disappointing. But I guess the point is they got it onto Apple Silicon. They finished the transition.
They did.
And now, now we can see where they go from there.
3 years to the day, Apple Silicon transition is over. You no longer can buy a new Intel Mac from Apple. It's a pretty interesting time to be around. And so in good and bad ways, mostly good, I think, but I am definitely a little bit sad about the demise of the Mac Pro, at least in terms of something to actually aspire to own. Especially when you consider that for $8,000, so $69.99. That's the price, the starting price of the Mac Pro. We can get the same 60-core GPU M2 Ultra, but double the RAM at 128 and 8 times the storage for the same price.
Yeah.
It's, when you see something like that, you're like, dang, Apple accidentally nuked their own product. They made the Mac Pro obsolete. We didn't even realize it at the time. The Mac Studio came out and we thought, this is a great holdover product while we wait for the Mac Pro. Nope. Turns out that was it. That was the one. Now we know.
Yeah, pretty much. And so hopefully, in the future things might change, but I guess for now, that's where we are. And I know that we're a little bit over time, but I wanted to talk about the show for like 2 minutes before
Oh
we
yeah.
end, because
Yeah.
it was just almost a week ago, so we got to talk about that briefly.
Oh, absolutely. Let me pull up the link here because we did record it. I know a lot of people were asking, oh, where's you guys are going to live stream. You got to live stream. And we said, oh God, no, there's no way that we're going to be able to live stream this. That's crazy. But we did set up some cameras and we were able to get it recorded, and it's up on YouTube right now if you missed it. So I'm finding the link here. It was honestly one of the most like insane things I've ever done, I would say.
It was surreal, like being on that stage in front of the people and being like, we're actually doing like a show right now. Like it was pretty crazy.
I felt like real people kinda.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it was a really, really special event. And I'm really glad we did it ultimately. I know we were very nervous. We made no money from it, by the way. I'm pretty sure our net like profit is going to be negative. I think we're going to end up having paid to make that show happen. But I'm so glad that we did it.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience, and that's all I cared about was the experience. Like,
Yeah.
And I guess it's easy for me to say that because I have like a job that pays me a salary and whatever.
Yeah, you do.
So I'm very happy
to have a salary.
I know. So I'm more than happy to say that. But no, honestly, it was an amazing experience. It was amazing. Like we spent literally like the entire year up to this point planning the event, which was a lot of work, but it was really great to like get super close with, Sam and John. And, obviously we're already very close, but it gave us a lot of excuses to talk. We put this thing on, we had over 100 people come. It was super awesome. Everyone that came said that they loved it. It was an awesome time. We had an awesome time. We had some cool guests that talked about the headset and this, all the stuff that they saw, which was awesome. Meet and greet was really cool. I got to sign a few things, which was very fun. It was such an amazing experience. And even though we are probably going to lose money, especially because we have over 100 t-shirts in my living room upstairs that may or may not ever get sold, it was still an amazing experience.
Yeah, I'm like still in shock that we did that. It kind of came and went so fast. I was like, "Oh, what? We did that? That's crazy." Crazy.
I know, it was like so much planning leading up to it. The few days leading up to when everyone was in town were like crazy hectic. We were all running around. We like bought the furniture that we use for the show. We bought it like 2 days before. We returned it the day after. We were running all over the place. It was crazy. It was a whirlwind, but it was so much fun. And the last thing that I'll say, someone asked here, will you do it again? For me, 100%. And I've been saying that for the entire time when all of the other guys were like going crazy. We were all going crazy, but I was saying when this happens, it's going to be amazing and we're going to want to do it again. And I want to do it again. Maybe a little bit less involved, a little bit more chill one, maybe a smaller venue. I don't know. But I would do it again. Would you do it again?
I think I'm on the same page as you. I needed to spend less time making it happen and also not earn negative money from it because I do make my living doing this. But yes, I would do it again. I think honestly, I would love to make a habit of just every once in a while getting a smaller venue. Like we kind of went big on this one. This was a big show. Yeah. I would definitely be on board with like smaller venue, limited access, basically VIP only. We sold out of VIP tickets. We had to add more. Like clearly that's what people wanted. So I would do a smaller venue, less planning, just straight up, let's do a podcast. Let's get some Q&A. We already have the app for some feedback and comments. Perfect. We can do that more easily. Go to more cities in different times. If we were to do it something like that was less involved, I would do it again.
Absolutely. So I definitely hope we will. We're taking a nice break. I'm not even going to bring it up as much as I would love to. I'm not going to bring it up for a little while, but eventually,
it's not happening this year, folks. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Eventually,
no way.
I promise if no one else brings it up, I will. I would love to do it again. Smaller venue, maybe on the East Coast this time. That would be cool to get a
I'd love to
audience.
do NYC.
Yes, that would be super awesome. Thanks to Clean My Mac for sponsoring. They were an awesome sponsor. They took a chance on us. I hope it was worth it for them. It was definitely worth it for us.
I hope so.
Sell the extra merch. Yes, if you go to the live recording and you look down in the comments, we have the t-shirts for sale at genius.supply. So if you're interested in picking one up, you can. They're all sitting upstairs in my house. I would love to ship them out to people. And I will just say, we are not making much money on these t-shirts. These were like really, really expensive
They're very
t-shirts.
high quality, expensive t-shirts. I think we make like $4 a shirt. Probably less with shipping.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So Sam went a little crazy with these, but they're very nice shirts. I promise you, if you think the price is kind of high, we are not making that much money on them. So you can check them out at genius.supply.
It's not corporate greed. It's just Sam.
Yeah. It's just Sam and our need to be as little, as less in the negative as we possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and look at that. We have, as someone who was there, he can vouch they are great shirts.
Yes,
that's
not at all biased. My good friend Nick, who is also sitting upstairs.
Not at all biased.
With the shirts. But yes, they are great shirts. I have a shirt. And one last thing. Someone asked the feedback. Someone was trying to send feedback and it disappeared. We do have an email for this podcast. We haven't talked about this in a while, but if you email submissions@drkmodepodcast.com, DRK, of course, modepodcast.com, I will get them and I will share them with Luke and we'll try to include them. So you can email feedback and ideas and anything. I feel like we should say this more often. Yeah, you can say how awesome that we are and how much you love watching every week.
Woo!
Yeah, so submissions@darkmodepodcast.com. Feel free to send us a message there. And I think I have a message to send to you, Luke.
Oh, what's that?
That message is that we are way over time and we should end this episode.
Oh, that's a great idea. You're right. We are, and we shall. I've been your host, Luke Miani.
And I've been your host, Noah Rubin. We'll see you next week and have a great night.